Hey guys, Nicolette here with Insomnicat. Today, Bryan and I are going to talk to JJ Digeronimo. She is the founder of Tech Savvy Women, which is an organization for women in tech, up to 3,000 members now. She's going to talk to us about some challenges women face in the industry, about her book, about an upcoming book she's working on, and just some overall life tips. So stay tuned. Hello, everybody. I'm Nicolette with Insomnicat, and Bryan and I are here with JJ Digeronimo. She is the founder of Tech Savvy Women. JJ, for those of us who don't know, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started and how you came to found this organization?
Sure. Thanks for having me. So I started in tech in the early 90s. I started in telephone companies and moved my way to data centers and then out to Silicon Valley. And then some life choices of falling in love and having a family brought me to Ohio. And when I arrived in Ohio, I really was seeking out a tribe of women in tech. And I spent a couple years working in tech in Ohio and being based out of California. And I just really needed that women's group to come together. And I found a lot of women didn't come out of their offices, didn't go to CIO events, and often didn't make local tech connect meetings. And so I figured out to really extend my network and invite women in my network and have them invite women. And we started in 2008 with 12 women.
What are you up to now?
Over 3,000 women.
Nice.
Yeah, it has been all grassroots, no marketing. It really just is experienced women in tech that are looking to connect, share, and even, expand their trajectory, not only in the office, but also in life.
Awesome. So in your experience working with these women who are very, into technology and in the tech field, what do you see are some of those common challenges? I mean, it's no surprise there are, some shortages of women in this industry. So what are some of the challenges that these women are experiencing?
Well, everyone's different. And I think men and women are equally struggling. The culture is, demanding, the time, travel, all of that plays in, especially when you move further on in your career. You might make life decisions to have children or adopt or even take care of loved ones. So I always think that time balance is always a challenge. But women really seem to, they often wait a little too long before they raise their hands. They really are trying to check all the boxes before they really feel comfortable saying, yes, I'm ready to take that next step. Where men often feel comfortable around 60, 70%. So I think one of the challenges for women in tech is that they could stretch before they were ready more often, which would help with their self-efficacy, which is their ability to believe that they can achieve it before they're ready. And I think that is a small thing women can do, is just raise their hand before they're 100% ready to ensure that they're creating stretch opportunities to increase their confidence and really condition themselves for impact.
So how does the organization help women achieve some of those things?
Well, we definitely share data. I think that's the thing. When you're in your job working all the time, you don't have time to research how women are showing up in tech. And it wasn't until I left in 2014, which was about 20 years after I started my career, that I started to do the research myself to really understand why women are sort of stuck in middle management, why are they not getting promoted at the same levels, or why are they jumping out? And I think the research-based data helps women understand, one, they're not alone, two, there are general themes of women in the workplace, and three, giving them strategies that they can try in their own environments with a network of people to sort of fall back on.
So some of these challenges that women are experiencing, you're a woman who's been in the industry for quite some time. Were some of the challenges that you see other women having similar to your own?
I was shocked. And in fact, my second book, The Accelerate Your Impact, I only included data that I was unaware of or was failing at. I didn't know that sponsors were such a critical piece to careers, and especially beyond the ages of 35. Women need sponsors more than ever. Most women have mentors. Women are very good at networking at the level they're at, but getting those sponsors that have more social capital than they have is difficult for women because they want their work to speak for itself. And they don't often feel like they should be asking people for help, or they didn't realize they really needed people to make those phone calls or make those connections. And so Accenture and the Glass Hammer did an awesome study about women in IT, and the biggest challenge was women aligning to sponsors. So I spent 4 chapters in my second book out of the 18 chapters, talking about how do you align to the right sponsors, because not everybody can be your sponsor. You have to find strategic people that can open doors, make connections based on where you want to have impact next.
So
you guys,
let me ask you, go ahead, Bryan.
I was going to say, do you guys as a group really spend time, talking about with those, the 3,000 women that are in your tech savvy group? You guys spend a lot of time talking about how to go about getting sponsors, and what do you find are the challenges in actually getting people to sponsor you with some of that, especially that you have data that backs it up with some of the data pieces that you see?
Yeah, I mean, I think sponsors is the critical thing experienced women in tech and professional women in general really need to work on. And so not only do I have an e-course on it, because I find it absolutely instrumental of exactly step-by-step how to do it. Many of the women's groups I speak at, we have breakout sessions, we create strategies, and then even some of the online discussions I have online are really focused on exactly how to do this, because it really can't be something left to chance, because when you are a candidate, or you're trying to get on a board, or you're trying to develop a new product and you need money, whatever the end game is for you, you often need people beyond where you are to amplify the work that you're doing and make those connections that your network might not be able to foster at this time.
So Bryan, I was going to ask you, you're a male, so you see some of these things that were, do you think that some of the challenges that women experience are similar to those that males experience? I mean, we talk so much about women, but I'm sure there are men who are experiencing some of this too.
Well, I can't really speak because I'm not a woman, right? So I can't really speak to the challenges that face women. But I think what happens, and Nicolette knows me, I'm pretty much like, I am totally one of those people, everyone is equal, I've always believed that. So
that's why we keep them around, JJ.
I love it.
Yeah. So, but I think it is. I think those are challenges for everyone, male and female. But I think to JJ's point, I think the way they go about it, the way society has gone and let those things happen or not happen, right, is really what impacts it. So I think, to her point, I think especially with all the data, that she has in her research, I think it has been harder in the past for women to get the sponsorships they need, where men, it's a little bit easier, I mean, Nicolette, you and I are both very alpha people, so we're very aggressive go-getters. So it's easy for us as human beings. But I think, for some people, maybe where there's less comfortability in looking at that, going after it, I think, it's probably been much harder over the years, in my experience, for women to do that. I mean, we see that across the board. In a lot of companies, you do see less women, and me, I actually think women are a lot smarter than guys. But overall, I think it has been harder over the course of time. I've been working. So
yeah, women seem to be more cautious. In fact, I started the second book off with the TEDx. When TEDx started, they asked 10 men and 10 women, and they researched these people in advance, and they hand selected them. 9 men said yes, 2 women said yes.
Why?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. I mean, there's some obviously demands for their time or things happening at home, but also women feel like they're not ready. They can do a little bit more preparation, or there's somebody better than them. They often talk themselves out of opportunities. In fact, many, many keynotes I ask women, how many of you have been tapped on the shoulder? Many hands go up. Now, how many of you accepted the opportunity? Only usually a third of the women. Because then there's a whole series of conversation. Well, I didn't think I was ready. I need to get more experience. I wasn't really sure. I didn't think I could do the work. We talk ourselves out of it, where I feel like men have self-talk too, but they don't pay as much attention to it as women do. We're very quick to say, you know what, I probably can't do it. I better wait.
It's just boggling for me.
Yeah, women that get older, I think as women get older, they get more confident in their abilities. And so women that are around 50, they come up to me like, oh, I used to be like that, but now I'm like, oh, who cares? I'm just going to do it. So I do think that age and experience does help you get over that self-talk.
Mm-hmm. That's good. And you brought up your book. I wanted to talk a little bit about your book, Accelerate Your Impact. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I wasn't really planning to write a second book, but when I went out with my first book, which was The Working Woman's GPS, when the plan to have it all lead you astray, I talked a lot about women about how to keep their energy high, aligning to the right activities, aligning to the right work. And many women came back and said, how do I get promoted? How do I get on a board? Where do I find a sponsor? How do I get in the right, position or P&L? And I just documented all those questions for about 3 years. And then I spent another couple of years researching, because I was sort of curious of why women are where they are in the workforce and in the org charts. And that really was the basis for my second book. And I don't know about you guys, but you know how the universe just kind of pushes you along. I was like, I'm not writing it. And then I was on a 3-day bike ride with one of my best friends from high school, and the universe is like, yes, you are. Yes, you are. I'm like, right already. So I came home and I just knocked it out. And I have to say it's awesome to have all that information in one place.
So can you talk a little bit more about that work-life balance? I just thought of something else too, but before the work-life balance, all this data that you were, and all this research that you were conducting, how were you actually, I'm curious, how exactly were you coming up with all of that data physically?
I am just like, I'm a really good, I have a skill of just sorting through a lot of data and building sort of a stream aligned through where to take people on this journey. And a lot of data, I've read so many books myself. I've spent most of my career on a plane. I've read so many books, and I'm always like, well, how do you do that? How do you have a 4-hour work week? How do you live in the power of now? How? And I feel like my engineering background gives me the discipline to create charts and columns and questionnaires that really helps me sort of figure out how do I do it. And then once I can figure out how to do it, then I convert that over to other people to help them, because just reading something, I often can't convert that to my everyday life. And I have charts in both books that I use all the time. And it really helps you categorize not only where you're spending your time, but are you aligning to the right things, and does it energize you? Because it's easy to say yes all the time, but that doesn't mean we're saying yes to the right things.
That's the second time we've heard about the no and the yes, Bryan, in 1 week. That's a sign.
I think the other thing that's amazing about what you do, because it's a very similar approach I use myself, because same thing with that technical background. What happens is you sort of use that technical background to actually prove your point, and it just increases the validity, or however you want to say it. It just adds so much more to the story itself, or what you're trying to do or convey. So I'm a huge believer in using data for those points, it's amazing to see you do that.
So in the book, what you talk about in your book, how does this kind of jive with work-life balance, especially for women who are trying to be the best at work and be the best at home? And how do we make it work?
Yeah, well, that's a common question. I really do appreciate it. And, just with the books are really the basis of the work that I'm doing personally. And then I put the research and the strategies together so that I can give the tools and techniques to other people. And the one chart is the power of no. I've used it in both books. I've added to it, and you can access it now. I'll give you the link for the call notes. But the power of no really gets you aligned to where are you spending your time, because so many of us say yes to things because we feel guilty, or we want people to like us, or we want to prove that we can. But oftentimes we're depleting our bucket because we're saying yes so often that we lose our own momentum. And I'm a really big believer in doing less and achieving more, and being really conscious of when you are saying yes, what is it aligning to? How long is it going to take? And does it energize you? Because if your to-do list is filled with things that drain you dry, your discipline and your personality is going to reflect how you feel about the things you've said yes to. And so the power of no chart is something that I recommend for men and women to be more impactful, and it gives them a real tactical way of aligning their schedule and ultimately their life.
So one other thing I saw on Tech Savvy Women, I was reading an article about imposter syndrome, and I wanted to talk about this because I feel like it's coming up a lot lately. It's kind of the trending phrase. So, there's talk of these different levels of imposter syndrome. Why do you feel that this is becoming more apparent now?
It's so interesting because I'm starting so many of my keynotes with this conversation, because so many of us aren't really talking about that voice, the way we talk to ourselves, how we prepare ourselves. And when I was writing my second book, I actually reached out to Pauline who founded this from in 1978. And she says men and women struggle from it equally. And it's really that self-doubt, that self-deprecation, the way we talk to ourselves. And when I talk to women, I say, you know, even large groups of women, hundreds and hundreds of women, I said, where do you want to have more influence and impact next? And they write it down. And then I say, well, how many of you just told yourself you can't do it? And then they all giggle. Because right away, oftentimes, if we get that opportunity or we're positioning for something new or we want to create more momentum, the first conversation we have in our head is generally driven by our ego. And that often is, who do you think you are? Are you crazy? You're not prepared for this. There's no way you can do this. And in fact, I often quote this article where even Meryl Streep, every time she starts a project, she basically tells her, I can't even believe they hired me. I'm not even a good actress at all. So that's reassuring for me, because if somebody like Meryl Streep is saying that to herself, it totally validates what I'm saying or what you're saying or every other person. But I think the more awareness you bring to it, the more you're able to muffle that voice and compartmentalize that. And I think a lot more people are studying mindfulness and really being conscious of kind of how their mind talks to them every day, how their ego talks to them, so that they can get a handle on how much they let it influence or not influence their decisions.
So you mentioned earlier, you know, as people mature, right, they get more confident in that. And, you know, if you look at like, I think it's the Dunning-Kruger effect. I always talk about this, right? You know, where, you know, people who don't know are really confident for some reason. And then as you start understanding a topic, you get less confident until you get to a certain level of expertise. And then once you hit that expertise level, right, that's where your confidence goes, like skyrockets. Do you believe that is also one of those things that also comes with age as people mature, or just as they mature through their career, even if it's not age, but as they go through their career? Do you think that is sort of what happens as they get more confident? They build that confidence and that helps?
Yeah, I mean, a part of me says yes, but I feel like tech, especially the tech discipline I grew up with in I mean, it changes so much, it's hard to be confident of anything. There's constantly reorganizing acronyms and layers of the OSI model that I think it's hard to be confident. It might be one of the reasons why women are sort of stuck in middle management, because they can't feel like they have a total handle on it at all the times. Mm-hmm. What's worked for me is really working from the inside out. I've spent a lot more time practicing meditation and mindfulness to really get a handle on what makes me tick. What do I say to myself all the time? And that may just come with age. Maybe a lot of people do that. I know that's been really the backbone that's allowed me to spread my wings a little bit more. But I can see what you're saying, because you think of teenagers, right, at 16, 17, they're just no fear. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, that 25 to 35, or maybe even 30 to 40, they get more insecure, and then later in life they get more secure. So I guess it just depends by person. I know that I needed to adopt a mindfulness practice for me to really get around these voices, and I work on it every single day. I agree with the meditation thing 100%.
Yeah, I think it's one of the, you know, that quiet time, that being with yourself. And, you know, sometimes it's a matter of not even thinking versus thinking through, right? You know, I think that's what helps a lot. So like your 3-day bike ride, I'm sure you did a lot of thinking on that. Yes. When I run, that's exactly what it's for. It's for thinking, you know? So.
It's so powerful. The quietness is so powerful. And so many people are like, well, I'm so busy. How can I do this? But actually, you're more fulfilled, you're more centered. And I believe you're more impactful when you give yourself that time in the morning or time at night or both. It really creates an energy and aura that is so meaningful, and that will be the basis for my third book.
Yeah, and I think what happens too with people is they don't see it. They see it as, like, say they're going on that bike ride, right? They see it as taken away from the time they're actually working on what they want to do, but it's actually working on the thing you want to do. Like, you spent 3 days riding a bike thinking about what you wanted to do, and it opened, you know, the universe up to you, or how, you know, to understand what you needed to do in that, you know, in that book, right?
It's so powerful. I feel like we get stuck in the word busy and almost like it's a badge of honor. But honestly, I think the people that have figured out how to create space between that busy are the ones that really have that innate knowing and impact.
So JJ, you know, you touched on this a little bit, but I was going to ask you, does it work? So the mindfulness that, you know, and not just for you, do you see it working in other people's lives? You know, is this really working? Because a lot of people can say, you know, you have to take time for this and that and say no more and meditate and do whatever it is that it is that connects you to you. Is it working?
Such a great question. And in fact, the day that I showed up to my first mindfulness class, which was 8 weeks long based on John Kabat-Zinn, I brought a notebook and I was ready to take notes and really get into it. And the trainer or teacher, Suzanne, was like, what's the notebook for? And I was like, well, you know, if I get any good ideas. She's like, oh yeah, no, we're not writing anything down. I'm like, what? What is the point? Like, we're not going to write anything down. What if I get a good thought? She's like, you're just going to let it go. I'm like, oh no, we're not. So it took me, I mean, a good, I would say 3, 4, 5 months to really allow myself the ability to separate my being from my thoughts. And what I learned is creating space and creating the insight to see that your thoughts don't have to run you. Gosh, it's like a big, huge, deep breath. You're like, oh, thank goodness. And I think finding a good teacher or listening, you know, Dan Harris has a great book. There's many great books out there on it. Just gives you the ability to take back your own, I don't want to say control, but take back your own peace of mind, I think would be the right words.
So I want to close up with, again, talking about men for a second, because I think that, so the question is, what can men do, right,
Sure,
to really help women achieve more equality, you know, in whatever area of life we're talking about, maybe in particular in the tech workforce, but in general?
I think this is a great place to round it out, because I think for me, men have been instrumental in my career, both as mentors and sponsors. I do a lot of work with corporate boards and organizations, and the men generally want to help, but honestly, they don't understand the difference of how men and women show up differently in the workplace, and giving them insights to why or how women make decisions, when they raise their hand, why they may be talking themselves out of it, or how they might need someone to say, you know what, I know you don't have this 100%, but I'm going to be by you. And I recognize you're going to make some mistakes, but we know you have what it takes to get over here to this role or this position. Educating men on things to do not only gives them confidence, because generally some of them are struggling with the same things, but it empowers them to be advocates for diversity. And we all know, based on the data, that diverse groups, diverse tables make better decisions. And so I think that men want to be part of the solution, and they also benefit from the data and the exercises, because not only does it help them, it might help their daughters, their nieces, their wives, their parents, and even the people at work.
Thank you, JJ. Bryan, am I forgetting anything before we wrap up? Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think it was a great conversation, JJ. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so honored. Thanks for the invitation.
And you said you were working on a third book?
I'm just starting.
Okay.
Yes, I'm just
All right.
starting. It's all about the meditate, like how do professionals leverage sort of fueling their own light, and really figuring out how they're going to take that to the next level. Because I often write about things that I go through, and I think it really helped me get to that next level of impact is investing in the time in myself. And I recommend so many people to do it. Get out of that busy and create that space.
Awesome. So we'll stay tuned for that. And you said you're going to send us one of those sheets. So we'll have that up in the link as well. Awesome.
Yeah, I'll send you some links for both sponsors and Power of No.
Awesome. Thank you so much, JJ. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.